Welcome, fellow book lovers, to a realm where the lines between black and white blur into shades of morally gray. I'm Bree, and I'm joined with my partners in crime, Lauren and Maggie.
Today, we are going to be talking about our first quarter of the year reads. We're going to talk about what we loved, what we didn't love, what was confusing, what was weird, and everything in between.
So if you're ready to join us, hit that subscribe button for your new digital book club, grab your headphones, settle in, and let the journey begin. Talk Fae To Me starts now.
Woohoo! Hey guys, how's it going?
You know, living life, cruising and grooving.
Beautiful, amazing, love it. All right, so Q1, I would just like everyone to know that I am distraught that we're already into April in 2024, and I just would like to file a complaint with whoever's in charge. Time is moving too quickly.
Yeah, and we're like almost halfway through April, which is very upsetting. Like it's already almost summer. I don't like the summer weather. I wish it would just stay cold all year round.
I guess we should just dive right into it, right?
Should we all say how many books we read in Q1? Like, should we start off with like the basics?
Yeah, let's do that.
And you can include any book, not just romantasy.
So, for 2024, I am aiming high because last year I think I only actually read, which granted, everyone takes this with a grain of salt. Some people read faster than others, and no matter how many books you read, every book is a great accomplishment. But I had a goal of 100 books last year, and I didn't get anywhere near that. And then I lowered it down to 80, and I still didn't get anywhere near that because I was like really struggle busing there with that baby. So I had lowered it to 80, only got 56. This year I tried again for 80 books, and I think I read 26 books in Q1, which is crazy. I found
that's great.
I
found your rhythm again.
Well, I discovered like audiobooks is really what it is. And like they just there's just something about an audiobook. Lets you just cruise through, you know?
Oh yeah.
I think I'm at 31. But I feel like I hit a lull in the last like 2-3 weeks. I have not been able to like finish a book.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I feel that.
I don't know if I've just been picking bad books or like just something like nothing's catching my attention.
Oh no.
But I feel like I have zero steam right now.
Yeah, I feel like
but that's okay. We'll talk about it. That's gonna come up.
I feel like in a little bit of a slump. I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just getting distracted. I think I'm just like I'm doing a lot with like work right now. So like when I go to read, my brain is still like thinking about all my work stuff. So it's like hard for me to get my brain to just like shh so I can enjoy my book. But I'm on Goodreads, I'm at 23, but there are 2 additional ones that I just didn't put on my Goodreads. They have embarrassing covers or embarrassing names, and my sister's on my Goodreads. So I just like keep certain things. She can also listen to this podcast, but I don't know. I get embarrassed about some of the books, so I don't put them on my Goodreads if they have a really gross cover.
Oh, I be swiping for a different cover all the time.
There are none for some of these, and it's very unfortunate. I mean, that was like sad. Last year when I read all the Ice Planet Barbarians, I originally did not put any of them on my Goodreads, and then I was like, wow, it's going to look like I didn't read very many books, but I read 40 Ice Planet Barbarian books, so maybe I should just put those on. And so I copped up to my sister and was like, hey, I did read all these spicy alien books, so if you see that on my Goodreads, that's what that is, and I'm sorry, and that's embarrassing.
And I'm sorry.
And she move along. Just keep going.
Yeah, she thought about reading the first Ice Planet Barbarians, and I was like, I mean, you can go for it. I don't know if it's gonna be your thing, but like, go for it.
But I loved them.
But I have a weird obsession with anything Ruby Dixon writes for the most part. So I've been just a few books of Ruby Dixon's that I've been like, not for me. Her Dragon series, not for me. The Readsiverse series, love it. Haven't put any of them on my Goodreads because those covers are worse. So I have read like all the Readsiverse books, which there's like 15 of them. None of them are on my Goodreads. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
You need to make like a private Goodreads for just you.
It's just
like, don't friend Ellie. Just keep it.
Literally just for my monster romance and my Ruby Dixon books. Ruby Dixon needs somebody to enhance her covers.
She needs discrete covers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they kind of did. Like, they did the special edition ones for Ice Planet Barbarians. I'm pretty sure that because they were at Target,
This one.
and then they were and then they were at Barnes and Noble, and they actually look really fun, and it doesn't give you quite the ick.
These covers are great. The issue is that there's like 40 books, and she's only up through special edition number 6, I think.
Oh yeah,
which is very upsetting.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just dive right in, and we'll just start off with the best. What was everyone's best top number 1 5-star read for Q1 of 2024?
What was yours, Brie?
Mine, I think, would have to be good old reliable Kingdom of Ash.
Good old.
I finished it, I think, like January 2nd or something, like very, very at the beginning of the year. So I started reading it at the end of 2023, finally finished it in 2024. But oh man, she's just stab you in the heart, rip out just out of your chest, you know? But just so good, so great. It's quite the lengthy girl. I actually was hearing some more theories from one of my other friends who is starting to read Sarah J. Maas, and she just finished Kingdom of Ash a couple months ago, and she's in the middle of the ACOTAR series, but she heard some crazy theories about Kingdom of Ash, or specifically the Throne of Glass series and ACOTAR, which I had not heard and we did not discuss, which I thought was crazy. Would you like to hear this?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I may butcher it. I don't know where it originated. I don't know where it came from. This was information that was passed to me through somebody else, so I don't know any of the OG like creators' handles or their names or anything. So I wish that I did. However, that when the 13 do the yielding, that they don't actually die, that they figure out how to world walk, and that they are actually in the ACOTAR world.
What?
And yes, because it was one of my friends, Stephanie. She said that Sarah J. Maas confirmed in an interview that she doesn't use names twice. And if you hear a name crossed over in the same place, it is the same person. And it was, I think there were 3 accounts of someone that they talked about where the names are the same. And it was the mercenary assassin girl at the very beginning of ACOTAR has this, I think her name is Briar, and one of the 13's name was Briar. And then
I always thought that mercenary was sketchy, dude. I've always thought that she was going to come back somehow. Anyway, continue. But ever since I read that, ACOTAR, the first one, I've always thought that there was something up with that mercenary. So please continue. But this is just like, for me.
Yeah, I had not heard that. I've never seen anything of that. I didn't reread ACOTAR when I was starting to read these ones, so it never even crossed my mind that the name was the same. There was another one and I can't remember, and then she thinks it's a bit of a stretch, but there's someone who like will die on the hill that they think Mor is Astrid. And at least at the very, very bare minimum, that Mor is a witch. And I was like, I don't know the in-depthness of it, but she was like, oh my god, she texted me like 3 days ago. I was like, have you heard, did I tell you my theory? And I was like, no. What? She goes, the 13 didn't die. And I was like, oh my god, what? So anyways,
isn't oh my god, isn't there like a girl that they save in one of the books, like when Tamlin?
Yeah, I thought that was.
Isn't that Briar? They like save Briar from Hybern's. Is it Hybern's camp? I don't remember exactly what happens with this.
Maybe
like when Tamlin helps to get. Was it Azriel and Farah?
Like, because I've heard multiple theories that like that's Tamlin's mate.
I've heard that too.
Briar is like a rose,
right? That it's Beauty and not Beauty and the Beast. That it's going to be
Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty or something like that, which would make sense. But I'm trying to think if there's any other repeated names. But yeah, Briar definitely is one.
There's a couple, like, what it was,
I
I can't
know.
remember off the top of my head all of them, but one of them was The Mercenary, there was another one, and then for some reason, there was something about More that they said gave them doppelganger, double vibes, whatever that they think she is Astrid, and I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy."
I mean, there is a weird thing between like Astrid and Moore, right? Because Astrid has, what does she have carved on her stomach?
Unclean or something.
Unclean, and then Moore gets like the note like nailed to her stomach, nailed to her womb specifically. Which they obviously would have noticed that scar, but it's just that's an interesting similarity.
Parallel,
Yeah, parallel for sure. Even if they're not related, there's obviously a parallel.
Like, I just need
I
Sarah J.
know.
Maas to write faster. I need her to hurry up. These theories just get unhinged, and these people be doing the most,
We
you know?
saw how unhinged these series can get with the Third Crescent City. I feel like everyone had these huge, massive, so like all-encompassing theories, and it left a lot of people very unhappy with this book.
Yeah.
So
I know. I'm trying not to theorize too much. Anyways.
It's okay. Moving on, Lauren, what was your top favorite read so far this year?
I'm gonna say Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I feel like that was the first one in a while that really got me because after Crescent City 3, I was in a big slump and I had a hard time finding something to kind of get me back out of the slump, get me like back into romantasy and romance and whatever. And I just felt like Bride by Ali Hazelwood did such a good job. Honorable mention to Hurricane Wars, and I'll probably talk about Hurricane Wars later. But Bride was just, it was refreshing. The romance was excellent. The writing quality was amazing. I was a huge, huge fan of Bride.
Big fan. I really like it. I have
It's
so
so
many
good.
thoughts, but I will say
I know I'm really excited to hear all your thoughts.
We're actually going to be doing an episode talking about Bride because we've all read it and we all adored it. So keep listening because we are going to hopefully soon be releasing our episode about Bride.
All right, Maggie, you're up. What do you think was your top
I don't know.
read?
I'm kind of torn between two right now. I'm deciding if Bride was my top of the first quarter or if It Inked in Blood.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
But you know what? I feel like when you go through like a point where, like Lauren was saying, where nothing has hit for you. So I read If It Inked in Blood before I read Bride. So I wonder if that's why, like, for me, I'm like, was it better? Was that my top read because I had like nothing I loved before it? Or does that make sense? Where I don't know. I feel like it's what we talked about, like where if a book is so hyped up, it totally changes your perception of a book. Or like if you've had a bunch of ones that are just kind of a disappointment, where then you get one you do like, you're like, I love this book. It was the best book I ever read. And it's like, was it? Or was it just a good time?
But I feel like even if it is, I think that's okay though. Even if it's like your favorite book for a season, your favorite book for a couple weeks, a month, a year, whatever, I think that's okay because as we've discussed, we're gonna, again, all roads lead back to Twilight. At one point in our life, that was a really good book because at 12, 13, when I read that for the first time, I was not analyzing that book by any means. I like took it at such face value and entertainment value that I really, really liked it. But if to read it again as an adult, I'm like, oh, well, okay, maybe not. But, I think even if you may not think it's your actual legit favorite, at the time where you read it and it like really did something for you, that's all we can ask for.
It's enough.
I mean, yeah.
It doesn't mean it's a bad book.
I was going to say, Maggie, like, even if you're struggling to figure out if you liked the book simply because you hadn't read anything that really hit for a while, that still says something about the book. That still means that the book broke through your slump. And that's still the sign of a really good book. Whether or not the book you read afterwards is technically better, but the first one's the one that got you out of the slump, that's still a huge thing. And again, it's such a testament to a writer's talent. I felt like Ali Hazelwood did a really excellent job. And maybe I love that book because I had been in kind of a slump and a struggle, but still, I mean, it was
you still loved it.
I still loved it, and I can still love it for what it did, which was kind of take me out of a slump.
And we all just know that some of us in this group are just Danielle Jensen fans.
I am a
Lauren?
Danielle L. Jensen super fan. I love her so much. She signed this book for me.
Oh my gosh, that's so wonderful, Lauren. Wow, that's so exciting.
It
Congratulations.
just knocks everything.
Yeah,
Sorry.
don't worry. I'll edit it out. It's fine.
It says my name at the top.
Oh my
Beautiful.
gosh.
Yeah, for Lauren. And I love you too,
Yes.
Danielle L. Jensen. I also have my other special Danielle's behind me. My beautiful one. Sorry, I'm like hitting everything.
That one is just beautiful.
Oh, it is. It's a gorgeous book.
And it's fellow, and they're both signed. These are like two of my most
Oh.
prized. These are my most prized possessions. I have like 3 signed books, and they're all signed by Danielle L. Jensen.
Lauren's house is on fire. We know what she's saving.
I'm saving my Danielle L. Jensen books.
Should get you a fire safety box for Christmas to make sure that your books are safe.
You know what? I should, as somebody who deals with a ton of fires and explosions for work professionally, I am shocked that I don't have one of those.
What can you do? It's all right.
Yeah.
All right. I think moving right along, a book that I very much enjoyed, but took a while to get into because it was kind of confusing for me, was The Hurricane Wars. I loved this book. I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was new. She took so many familiar concepts and put such interesting twists on them. I am very excited for this story to continue. I thought this was so good. So good.
I
Big fan.
adored The Hurricane Wars. I agree. Thea Guanzon did, like, she really put her entire heart into that book. You can tell she loved writing that book. She loves those characters, that story, that world. And I think it's so cool that Thea Guanzon came from the fan fiction world. Like, that is a Kylo Ren and Rey Skywalker fan fiction. That's what it's based on.
It?
Yes, girl. Did you not notice that he looks exactly like Adam Driver?
No.
For a second, in my head, he did it.
Okay,
I did not realize that. The only one that I knew, I mean, I knew that duo in Adam Driver specifically in Harry Styles is really like a key motivator for a lot of people that have turned into legitimized authors and not truly strictly fan fiction. But Allie Hazelwood for Love Hypothetically, the Love Hypothesis, whatever the
That's
first one
also
is.
a Kylo Ren
Yeah,
one.
that's
Is
what I
it?
thought. So I
my
didn't know that this
goodness.
one
Girl, look at the cover.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Okay. That's fair.
I'm saying I didn't realize that this one was. I
Yeah.
had no idea that Hurricane Wars was. But loved it. It was so confusing, and some of the names were out there, and the concepts were weird of like the storm ships and their wasps. Like some of it was like,
Oh, the
what?
coracles, yeah.
Yeah, like trying to like figure out some of it and like their powers and like how they use them and who has them and who doesn't and like all these different things. Like it was very complex to try and understand. And I will say I feel like I was slightly a little more confused because I did read this via audiobook, obviously. True Brianna fashion. So I feel like maybe I would have had a little bit of an easier time somewhat following things if I had read the book. And like even like when I just opened it, Sardovia and Nenevarine, and I think it was hard to keep up with like the lands. Some of the names of the places and things were a little bit confusing. However, once you got into it and you could keep them straight, it was so good. Like it really got you into it, but it's not a very easy book to put down and pick up. You have to really commit some time, I think, to just read it straight through because of the concepts and the names and the plot lines are not easy. They're good. They're amazing, but they're not easy. They're not simple in any means.
I would put The Hurricane Wars probably on the same pedestal as the first Crescent City book in the sense that like Maggie and I talked about this because she's got a coworker who started reading ACOTAR and then I think thought it was either ACOTAR or Throne of Glass, something. Started a different SJM book, thought it was too confusing. So it was like, oh, and so I'm going to read Crescent City instead. And Maggie and I were like, ooh, that's It's so good, but I would not say it's for a person who is starting to read fantasy romance. And that's exactly what I would tell somebody about the Hurricane Wars. If you're somebody who is experienced in reading high fantasy and complex high fantasy, excellent, really wonderful book. But I'm somebody who has read quite a few, higher fantasy books and stuff. And I was confused. I would say I was like maybe less confused than I was when I read Crescent City like a year ago, but I definitely was confused. The magic system was so interesting and so cool, but also confusing because this world blends science and magic, and it's really difficult. So it blends science and magic, plus it's got this like Southeast Asian sort of setting. And so there's a lot of words and phrases that are, one, made up because they're fantasy, two, come from Southeast Asian culture, I think. Three, come from the Star Wars world. And four are like part of like the magic, the made up magic system. So it can be a lot to keep straight. Absolutely worth it. So spectacularly amazing. Really, really excellent book.
Yes, I concur. I enjoyed it quite a lot. What about you, Maggie? Did you have a confusing read in Q1?
I feel like I had the hardest time getting into and staying into When the Moon Hatched. And I don't know if it was, again, like because there was a magic system that was vaguely similar to other ones where I was having a hard time keeping its magic separate, if that makes sense, and not like lumping in other ones where then I was like, oh, I get this. And then I was like, do I? I do not. Like, because there's dragons and there's elemental magic. And I was like, but which books have what? And so I think it was maybe my most confusing, but it took me freaking forever to read it. So I'm like, does that add to the confusion?
Yeah, I think the speed at which you read a book, when you're super drawn into the story, right? The context clues are fine. You're remembering all these characters and all these people and all of that stuff. And then once you put it down for a few days and you get back into it, I've definitely had that where I'm like, I'm sorry, I do not remember at all who this person is, or I don't know where this place is that they're talking about. Have they been there before? I don't remember. So yeah, definitely when you have those. I mean, again, it's like how the way you read a book, audio, in a binge read and not a binge read, can totally change your perception of a book, which is so interesting.
100%.
Yeah, I haven't read that one, so I think that's interesting to hear you say that because I've been seeing it everywhere.
I know.
And
that
it's
was
definitely
my
on
category.
Yeah, I was like, it's definitely on the TBR, but I have seen it all over the place for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's everybody's spiciest read? I don't even know which one. I'm trying to look. I'm like, and how are we categorizing spicy at this point? I'm like, most spicy scenes or craziest spicy scenes?
I know. I was going to pick
A Game of Gods.
Yes, A Game of Gods and A Touch of Chaos for sure.
That was going to be my pick.
Oh, I don't actually have A Touch of Chaos. Funny story, I have the special edition from the Poisoned Pen. It's a bookstore in Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
And I have not driven to Mesa to go get it yet. So it's just chilling at their store. So I just need to go get it. It's been like a month.
Oh my God.
I just forgot. But yeah, for sure. The Hades and Persephone series by Scarlett St. Clair, A Game of Gods, and A Touch of Chaos. For sure. Spicy. Very good.
Oh my goodness. See, and I read A Game of Gods when it came out in like September, October. And I don't remember it being that spicy, but also I was reading it. I was traveling for work and I was falling asleep while I was nodding off the entire time while reading it on a plane. So I don't recall it being that spicy, but you're probably right. That's just funny that I don't remember.
But I'm sitting here like, is it the whole series of spicy?
The whole series is very spicy.
Then I'm like, it was the last one spicy, or is it I'm lumping the whole series together?
Yeah, you know what? I don't actually know because I did reread all of them. Here's the thing. And out of the books that I did read, none of them are spicy except that one. So it has to, like, that's the only one that even has somewhat, besides Crescent City, where they kind of have sex scenes at the end of it, but like, this is the only one that has anything. So like, this one. It has to be this one. If it's not this book, then it's for sure this series because very good.
I would say mine is, I'm just looking through my list of Kindle ones. I feel like I had a lot of really spicy ones, but I think Wicked Beauty was probably my spiciest read so far. Although I've had quite a few honorable mentions, but Wicked Beauty, I think was probably, and there's like one scene specifically that I was like, ooh, that's spicy, spicy, spicy. Because it's like two guys with one girl. And that was one particular one where I was, oh, that's very spicy. But I would say I'm also currently reading, which I guess this isn't the correct quarter, but I'm reading the third A Court This Cruel and Lovely. And I feel like that one's very spicy.
I honestly don't even remember what happens in those.
The third one in particular has like the spicy scenes are far more frequent. Like I'm listening to it and it feels like every 30 minutes or so there's a spicy
We love it.
scene.
Listen, here for it. Because I was quite upset. I get a couple different books that I have just read, and not that I want everything to be spice. And like, 'cause here's the thing, like Powerless, I know that it was more YA than it was new adult. However, the tension was too much. Like, I don't want too much angst, too much this, too much that. It just takes too long to get there, and it's kind of like it gets boring in a way. I am here for like 60% of the way of the book. To me, is like a solid slow burn, you know? Like they've built it up, they have the tension, you get there, they've established the relationship, and they finally like get into it. But I fucking hate it when it's like 92% through the book and then they finally have like one scene and you're like, really?
Yeah.
You tricked me this whole book into thinking that something was going to happen and then nothing has happened. It's like, gosh darn
And
it.
the book's over.
Yeah. And there's just like all this tension, and for what? I totally agree. Like I need something to happen by about 60% of the way, not just like stolen glances, maybe holding hands or coy looks, like whatever. I need something more by about 60% of the way through the book. Even if it's YA. I do think even if it's YA, something more than just, I don't know. Like just some way to release that tension.
Yeah, I just like I get bored. I feel like, especially if it's a romance novel and it's literally about the love and it takes you 85% of the way through a book to feel the love. It's like, okay, so what was this for type of thing. I just get bored. It could be a really great book, but I just because then I feel like I get really sad. So, unrelated to this group of readers, but with my my actual book club with my friends, we read a book called Sinners Anonymous. I was really upset because it is hopefully actually going to be a 5-book series, and there's 3 brothers. The first brother got 1 book, the second brother got 2 books, and the third brother is going to get 2 books. I was furious because I loved the first book, but they got together in the last like 25 pages. Like it was like out of a 400-page book, the last 25 pages they were together, and then their story ended and it moved on to someone else. I was like, God damn it. I am invested. I did not get enough. I got like 1 chapter, 1 scene at the very, very end. Half of it was in a fucking epilogue. Anyways, I don't want that. And so then with the second book 2 and book 3 for the second brother, they like don't even get together in the first book, but they have a whole second book where it happens at the very beginning, and then you have an entire 400-page book of them being together. And I was like, okay, this
Perfect.
is what I
Yeah.
want. I was like, I'll give it to you. I was upset about it, but I'll give it to you because I at least got more out of it. I hate it when it's just at the very end of the book and then nothing more happens. It's just over and you're just left on a cliffhanger that's never going to get answered.
Oh,
And it's just sad.
Yeah. I almost had when I read The Hurricane Wars, I almost felt like there was too much tension, but I do think that there was enough little releases throughout to make it worth it. Like I don't want to spoil Hurricane Wars too much because I know it's still like pretty new, so some people may not have gotten to it yet. But it is so much tension throughout. But I do feel like there were little releases along the way to where something did actually sort of happen, even if it's, pretty PG kind of stuff. I do feel like there were these little moments that helped to relieve the pressure throughout. But I almost had that with Hurricane Wars. But luckily, the author really knew what she was doing. She gave
That
me
was
just
good.
enough to keep me like from getting mad.
Yeah. What about you, Maggie? It's your turn to pick a book.
What's the category?
Spicy.
No. Oh, spicy. Or you can throw out a new category, either one.
Yeah.
Because I think A Touch of Chaos, but again, it's like I don't even remember if that book is actually spicy or it's just the overall series.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I haven't had anything, but then Lauren's sitting here like that the third in a crown this cold and heavy.
Dawn. No. Let me. For A Touch of Chaos, it is spicy because it's not just
Okay.
Hades and Persephone. It's Dionysus and
Oh,
Ariadne.
yeah.
Is it Dionysus and
and-
Ariadne again? I haven't gotten there yet, but I
Mhm.
love Dionysus and Ariadne
So, like,
in Game
there
of
are
Gods. That's all I
other
remember from Game of
couples.
Gods.
However, in A Touch of Chaos, I
Wait,
think.
don't spoil anything because I still haven't read
No.
it. Okay.
I was not going to spoil anything. No.
No spoilers.
It's not a spoiler. It's that book. It does have trigger warnings in the beginning of it, and I think it's her only one that has trigger warnings, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I don't remember any
Oh.
of the prior ones having trigger warnings.
And that one does.
Huh.
Mhm.
Also the third is A Crown This Cold and Heavy is the third. Stasia Stark. Anyways, go ahead, Maggie.
I was gonna do for my category, good or bad, your biggest book talk book, like the time you fell for some hype, and then whether or not the hype was worth it. Besides Powerless, because we've already done a whole episode about it.
Okay.
I didn't really read that many books. Like, I would say the only book that I feel like I was influenced to read, I guess maybe either the Hurricane Wars or Powerless of books that I read, because in my own right, I have been seeing a lot of. I did read Gold this quarter by Raven Kennedy.
But you were into that series
Yes, that's what I was
beforehand.
gonna say. However, I've been into that series for so long, but it has, I feel like, been making its way through the internet a little bit. And I know there was a couple different like book boxes and indie stores and stuff that are doing special editions of it, which I thought was really cool. But I would say I really haven't read a lot of book talk ones. Like maybe the Hurricane Wars, Powerless. Like those are kind of the only ones. Like all the other ones I've read were series that I was into and like have like books that I've been like waiting to come out. And what is it? Yeah, the Court This Cruel and Lovely. It was just like something that I don't know, just came up on my Audible, and then yeah, I don't know, nothing really, honestly.
Mine obviously is probably Powerless is my biggest like book talk one of. I would say Powerless and the Hurricane Wars. We've talked enough about the Hurricane Wars as much as I would love to continue talking about it. But I read Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. I have not read her Kingdom of the Wicked series, which is like huge book talk. Like I would put it on par. I've always heard it talked about kind of when people are talking about like the Raven Kennedy books, Played a Prisoner series. So I've known about Kingdom of the Wicked for a long time. Honestly, the only reason I haven't read them is because the wait at my library is so incredibly long. And then when I did a little bit more digging on like, oh, is it worth it to buy the books and just read them? It said that they're YA and the first book is YA. So I was like, oh, I don't know. And then they get spicy later on in the series. But then I saw Throne of the Fallen come out, which is also Carrie Maniscalco, and I thought maybe it was a totally different series, so I became really interested in it. It's actually a spin-off of the Kingdom of the Wicked series, but I mean, all the Goodreads homies told me that I didn't need to read Kingdom of the Wicked to read Throne of the Fallen. I really, really liked it. I thought the story was great. I do think that I did myself a disservice by not reading Kingdom of the Wicked. I don't think that there was a ton of stuff that was too confusing, but I definitely think there were people and places that were mentioned as if you as the reader were supposed to know what that was, and there was allusions to things that had happened in Kingdom of the Wicked that were not explained at all. Like definitely. So I think the author presumed that almost everybody who read Throne of the Fallen had read Kingdom of the Wicked. But I mean, I liked the book regardless. I just think that I would have liked it even more had I read Kingdom of the Wicked. But I do really recommend Throne of the Fallen, and I liked it so much that I will probably take the plunge and go read all 3 Kingdom of the Wicked books now.
As long as that weight is less.
No, I'll probably, at this point, I'll probably just buy them. But I think I might have to buy them.
Like, you liked it enough to buy the series.
Yeah, I'm going to see how much they are on Kindle, but I do think I liked it enough to buy the series. As long as they're all like $10 or something, I think I did like it enough to make that purchase, which I'm pretty
For sure.
frugal when it comes to my books, so I will do almost anything to not have to buy books. That's just like me personally, but yeah, that was probably one of my bigger book talk influences. I mean, A Fate Inked in Blood has also been really big on book talk, but let's be real, I will read anything Danielle L. Jensen puts out. So like book talk had absolutely no influence on my decision to read that book. It's simply because I am like one of her biggest fans that I will read pretty much anything she puts out.
I think that's fair. She's done her work to make you like her, you know?
Oh, she knows exactly what I like, and yeah, we'll talk about Fate Inked in Blood in another episode, but she knows what I like. She does it every time. Everything she puts out is a hitter, like the story, the romance, the spice. She is excellent, and I love her so much. I love you, Danielle L. Jensen. Thank you for signing my book, even though I wasn't there. I'm trying to think of what my category is going to be. Well, I guess it's Bree's turn again. I was like, because I just picked spiciest. Bree, what's your next category?
Well, here's the thing. I'm out of books. I only have one other book that I read, and it's incredibly old. It came out when we were in elementary school, I think. But it was Aragon by Christopher Paolini. And I wanted to reread this series because at the end of last year, Murtaugh was released, which is a spin-off extension of this series. Yeah, I had every intention of like reading all three of the or 4 of these books and then reading that one. And then I actually could not stand reading this book again. It's a phenomenal. It is like an award-winning huge book. The audiobook, awful. So awful. It ruined it for me. And like I would for sure try to read this book. Like I have the physical ones obviously because I've had them since I was like 13. But I could not do it. That it is the main character is a guy and his dragon, it's a book about dragons. His dragon is a girl. But they sometimes when you have the same gender doing different gender voices, it gets a little challenging. And the narrator is great, but I just could not get on board with his female dragon voice, and it like really ruined it for me, I have to say. And I just really did not like it. And it's the same way actually what is it, the Daughter of No Worlds?
Mm-hmm.
Can't get through it because I hate the audiobook.
I love the audiobook.
Wait,
Oh
Lauren loved the
I love-
I'm shocked.
I love that they did an accent for Tizana for the audiobook. So that's
it's-
upsetting to hear.
I know, it's not even that. I think I'm having a really hard time listening to it because this is the only book I really feel like, which to be honest, makes sense, that these people come from different places, they speak different languages. It makes sense that they would have different accents, though I don't feel like it's ever really brought up when you're talking, like when characters are talking about books and stuff, like Throne of Glass. There's like different continents and different areas that these people are from, and they could have different dialects and all these. It's not ever mentioned. In that book, it is. Or at least the voice, the narrator does that. And as she is having her internal dialogue with herself about trying to say something in 2 different languages because she's from one place, she's going to another place, she doesn't know this language, and she's trying to do it. Listening to that through the audiobook was hard for me, which is why I didn't like it. Like I think I would like the book better if I actually read it, but trying to do that in my brain when I'm like honestly half listening, that's part of the reason why I like audiobooks, is that I can not focus 100% of my energy into reading I can do it while I'm driving, you know what I mean? Or while I'm making dinner or I'm cleaning, I can listen to an audiobook. But it was too hard for me. I just kept finding myself like rewinding and rewinding and rewinding. I was like, I am just like not into this. And I just could not. And I've been at 12% since like the beginning of February and have not touched it since. And I totally forgot about that until now. But anyways, yeah, no, Aragon, loved the book, great book. Could not stand the audiobook. So I don't know what the category would be of their
Maybe like
childhood books that disappointed you again.
Yeah, but I don't have anything that fits that. I was gonna say maybe the category should be most disappointing. And obviously Brie with the caveat that like the audiobook was disappointing. The actual book is excellent. But that's it. I don't know. Because if we do childhood books that aren't as good when you go back, I didn't read any of that this quarter.
I didn't reread anything
like
from my youth.
again, it was the intention was to do it for Murtaugh. I've never made it that far. I rented all of the audiobooks. And like the challenge is I wanted to do audiobook and I rented them from the library, but the only two books that had extremely, extremely, extremely long waits was Aragon and Eldest, which is the first and the second book. But then the third and fourth books did not have any wait. And then Murtaugh had like a 26-week wait. And I was like, oh my God, okay. So I was like doing my best and I was coming up in line for these books and kept having to send them back because they were out of order. And so I just like gave up and was like, okay, we'll just do this at a later date. I'm reading other things and yeah.
Yeah. And maybe once the hype for Murtaugh like dies down, it'll be a little bit easier to get the audiobooks without the wait or something. Because yeah, that sucks.
And you would think my Libby is through the Phoenix Library. I don't know if like the City of Peoria and the Phoenix Library have the same ones, but mine is through the Greater Phoenix Library. They sometimes really frustrate me because there are a lot of people who live here. And they'll have like 3 copies of a book. I'm like, are you for real? You have 3 copies and there are 700 people waiting. Literally. I think that's how it was like 500 and some odd people that were waiting for Throne of Glass. Like, get some more.
Insane.
Just get some more copies. Get some more. Jeez. Clearly it's popular and it will get used. Like, what is the hang up?
Yeah. I always like think about that with the library. I understand that there's got to be some reason why they only have a certain amount of copies, but I'm like, it's a digital book or it's an audio book. Give it to me for, I just don't know why it's like limited like that, you know, where they can only have 3 people able to use it at a time. I don't really understand it. And I'm sure somebody who is actually well versed in like library system could tell me the reason. But to me, I'm like, it doesn't really seem like there's a reason.
It's probably licensing.
No,
it is. I know it is licensing, but.
My sister had talked about this because my sister has that degree in library sciences.
Oh, right, yeah.
Wish I could tell you what she told me, but she did give me a full explanation on why, like how digital copies work for books. Couldn't tell you now, but I did get an explanation and it did make sense at the time.
Okay, well, can you ask your sister for another explanation and she can explain it to me a different time?
She's going to be a guest on the pod and tell everybody how it is.
Yeah, I was like,
we talked about it for when Iron Flame came out and I was like, I don't understand. I ordered this book. They told me it was coming at midnight. Why did it not download to my Kindle until, 10:40 or whatever? Like, granted, I know that's not even midnight, but at 10 o'clock for Arizona time. And she was like, oh, it's because blah, 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 and walked me through this whole thing. And I was like, I'm still mad about it, but I understand. Because I was like, it's a digital copy. Why is it not on my Kindle at midnight Eastern time or whatever time it was supposed to release? And she was like, well, there's this many things. You have to download all these copies. And I was like, okay.
Oh my God.
You're like, whatever, it makes sense, but I'm angry.
I'm still mad about it.
Upsetting. I'm trying to think what my most like disappointing one was. I really don't want to keep talking about Powerless or Crescent City 3, even though Powerless is probably my most disappointing, unfortunately. And I do feel bad saying that, but yeah, I'm trying to think of. I really do think that those 2 were my most disappointing. They just didn't live up to the hype of what they could have been. And unfortunately, there was so much hype that I think that's a kind of a running thread with why Brie was so disappointed, right? With Aragon. Brie was disappointed, not because there was all this hype around the books, but because Brie knew it's a great book. And then to not have that expectation met. And I feel similarly, going into these books knowing that other people really loved them and then me not loving Powerless was so disappointing. I'll be honest, I'm a basic girl and I have no problem admitting that I am just like all the other girls. You know how cool all the other girls are? I'm just like them. So if other people generally love a book, I generally will like it. So it was so disappointing for me for Powerless that I didn't like it. I don't know. It was just upsetting for sure.
And I have just, not to continue to harp on it, but I thought it was so crazy that when we published our episode on Powerless, there were like 2 other podcasts. A Court of Heaven and Hell is another one, and they just released their episode this week covering Powerless, and everybody loves it. It's so crazy hearing everyone just gush, not in like a bad way or anything, but just like the different point of views. I'm surprised that we don't like it.
Yeah.
Because everyone is so into it, like, oh my gosh, I love their romance, I love their banter, I loved all this, like it's so great. And I'm like, I cannot relate to you at all with this book. And I so want to, but I just don't. And I'm like, do I need to read it again? Do I need to not read it through audiobook and read it in the physical book and just fuck off with that and maybe I'll feel differently? I don't know. But I'm really starting to second guess myself about how I felt about it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I think, again, I will reiterate what I said in the episode, and I still feel this way. I didn't hate it as much as you guys did, but I didn't love it the way I thought I was going to. And for me, that came from a few things. And it actually didn't come from the romance. Like, I thought that Peyton and Kai's romance made sense. I didn't hate it. There were just other parts of the book that I didn't like as a fantasy book. But, I just had this thought. I always think about how none of us actually really liked The Cruel Prince, right? None of us are huge Cruel Prince fans, which is wild when you consider how many people are completely obsessed with The Cruel Prince. And so I would almost put Powerless in that category of I cannot understand why everybody else loves it and I don't. It just is one of those weird things where it's one of those rare times that I don't love a book that everyone else loves. Like, people foam at the mouth over The Cruel Prince. People love Cardan, and I just simply do not at all. So I don't, everybody's entitled to their own opinions, but I just don't know what about the three of us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Where I'm like, I just thought it was so crazy that everybody else that I've listened to and all these different, I've seen reviews, podcasts, literally all these people talking about Powerless this week because Powerful came out this week also. Mm-hmm. And so I was just gobsmacked that the three of us all felt the exact same thing about it. And it's not like we didn't conspire. It's just
no, and it wasn't like we all hated it. We just all had big grievances that we kind of couldn't get past.
Yeah.
I would not say any of us are very discerning readers. No. I feel like we all read a lot of like not great books, and I'm like, we enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. But there was just things we couldn't get past.
Which again is just so wild. I think it's just so crazy. That's a book that baffles me about how my thoughts and my feelings about it, because I have such strong feelings about it, very strong feelings, and no one agrees outside of this room. I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah, it's just, and I just think it's funny that we all have the same feelings about The Cruel Prince too, only because like everybody else loves those books. So I'm like, what is about us three specifically and the way that we all enjoy books that none of us liked either of those books? And they are generally very well loved in the community of romantasy readers. I don't know. Well, The Cruel Prince, I think it's because none of us like bully romance. At least for me, that's like the thing I hate most about it.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay. I didn't realize that until later. But yeah, it's a little bit of the writing style for me. I had a hard time because it's like written really formal. Almost, if that makes sense. Like the language and the way that Holly Black writes that book, it made it a little hard, which it's almost interesting that it's a YA book. Because I don't know. There was something about it when I was reading it. I'm like, what is going on? But anyway, yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. And I'll be
romance.
No, and I have read 4 Holly Black. I read the entire Cruel Prince series because there were parts of it that I liked enough, I guess, to see where the story went. But yeah, I also read Holly Black's The Book of Night because it was her debut new adult novel. And I thought, okay, you know what? I didn't like the Cruel Prince series at all, but I don't think Holly Black is a bad writer. I just think that a lot of parts of The Cruel Prince weren't for me. So I'm sure I will love her new adult book. I didn't. I did not like The Book of Night really at all. I did finish it. I probably will not read the next one when it comes out. It's just so crazy to me because everybody loves Holly Black and like she is not a bad writer and I have no idea what it is about her books that I dislike so much. But it's just such a funny thing to me that everybody loves her and I've given her 4 chances and I still don't like her books. Weird.
Did you read, when you were a kid, did you read the Spiderwick Chronicles by her?
Just thinking that.
Holly Black wrote the Spiderwick Chronicles?
No. She did not write them. She like did stuff on them. And now
I can't think of who the other name is.
And then now like I think she owns or is part of some of the rights to it and is continuing on Spiderwick Chronicles stuff, but she is not the original creator of the Spiderwick Chronicles. However, she is heavily involved. So
yeah, which is like crazy. She has a whole role. Like she's definitely listed on.
Girl, I had no idea. I did not read the Spiderwick Chronicles, but
so good. Love
I know
shit.
I really missed out.
It's fine. I just was curious. I wondered if you had like really strong feelings about her as a child as well.
No. Oh my God. I had no idea. Huh. I wonder if I would have loved those or if even as a kid, I wouldn't have liked her writing. I genuinely could not tell you what it is about like her writing that I don't like besides like bully romance. But the fact that I didn't like her new adult book either, I don't really know what my issue is with her. I have a problem with Holly Black, I guess.
You're just not vibing. It's okay. I mean,
I know.
not everybody's for everyone. And it's okay.
I know.
It's not your cup of tea.
Not my cup of tea.
Nothing wrong with that.
I can pick one more category, although I think Brie is out of books.
Yeah, I am. I can just commentate.
I feel bad doing another category that Brie like doesn't have. A lot of mine were just stupid monster.
I'll go for it. I mean, it's your quarter, man. I read an excessive amount of books.
You read so many hockey romances.
I went balls to the wall with hockey romance. Listen, I am a fantasy lover. Don't get me wrong. But there's just something about the hockey romance that just got me in deep. And I literally read like 15 hockey romance books in a row in like 2 weeks. It was absolutely insane.
I have my category. Brie has hockey romance as her like weird niche genre. I obviously have monster romance as my weird niche genre. Maggie, do you have a niche genre of books? And if you could pick like if you could pick your favorite out of your niche books. I read quite a few monster romances.
I would say.
I don't really know what yours is either. Like you are pretty standard romantasy, and I think you lean more fantasy than you do romance. But is there like a specific type?
Like, girl, I just be reading what people tell me to read, and that is my issue. Is I just solely go off of what people tell me, and I think that's part of my issue. Is I keep falling for these traps of, not even traps. That sounds so negative, but like. Just like ACOTAR, or like, this is the fantasy romance of 2024, which was what I saw for the When the Moon Hatched. Right. Do you know that I started that book in January and I finished it yesterday?
I do remember when you started it.
I literally
could crazy.
I don't think, and like now I probably will read the next one when it comes out. I was not into this book until probably like 50%, but I do not DNF. I will pick that book up over and over and over again. Because I'm always like, it's me. I am the problem. I'm going to find this. I will do it with the series. Like I will read the next book in the series and I'm like, it's going to get good. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find the reason people love this book.
That's crazy. And
it puts me in these lulls.
Yeah.
I started When the Moon Hatched January 23rd and I finished it yesterday. And granted, I picked up other books in between, but I kept being like, it's in your TBR. Pick it up again, Maggie.
It's like you with Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone. That's been on your TBR shelf for 3 years.
And it will stay there because I will finish it eventually. I just could not do it.
Wow. Wow.
Like, I liked it in the end, but it took me 70% of the book to be, like, remotely into it, and that's a lot.
So I guess, is that your niche? Maggie's niche is book talk books? Like, any big book talk book? I don't know. I'm trying to think of, like, what your niche is as a reader.
Well, I
I
feel
think
like
I'm just I love recommendations.
Yeah.
Casey recommended some books to me. She said to read the Lachlan feuds, and I was like, Casey told me to do it. Read all 3 of them, and I did like them.
Yeah.
Or Casey told me to read Lie to Me, which wasn't romantasy. It was just like
Mm-hmm.
romance. I quite liked it, but again, I was like, tell me you like it, and I will read that book. If anyone says, oh, I really like this book, I will add it to my want to read, and I will go find it. I find like those books and I save these reels, and then I go and add them to my want to read. And I feel like I try to do my due diligence, and I'll be like reading reviews on Goodreads or even Amazon. I will look at what people have to say, and I will still read that book. It could have, 12 one-star reviews on the first page, and I'm like, but so-and-so liked it. And I will fall for it.
You've made some. I think you've
it.
made some good recommendations, actually, because you are definitely a Kindle Unlimited sleuther. If there is a good romantasy book on Kindle Unlimited, usually you know about it. So I feel like I do kind of go to you, or like at least go to your Goodreads for recommendations on specifically Kindle Unlimited romantasy books. Because sometimes it can be so hard to find them on Kindle Unlimited when, we all get the reels and like the TikToks and whatever telling you what to read next, but Maggie, you're also a frugal girl. You also don't like spending money on books. And so I don't want to have to buy all these books all the time. And sometimes they have crazy long waits from the library. So yeah, I think that's actually really cool that you are usually on the hunt for the next best KU book that's not trash. Like, as much as we love our KU trash, those only get you so far.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I feel like I saw someone talk about When the Moon Hatched, and they explained it to me as it was this book. If you took away the romance, the plot would stand. If you took away the plot, the romance would stand. And I did not agree with that sentiment. But I think that's like what I wanted. I feel like I wanted a little something, and I did not get that, wasn't quite met with it, or it took a hell of a long time to get to that point to where I saw like where they thought that.
Huh. Well, I was like, if I go into my niche category and pick a book.
That's just so interesting, Maggie, because like I just feel like I've seen that everywhere. And again, I saw a reel, I think it was, of someone talking about, can we stop saying a book is overhyped just because you didn't like it? And I was like, I see what you're saying, but no. Because sometimes I do feel like books, again, when you're so baffled as to why that book was popular, it has to be overhyped. You are just, did you, because sometimes I question other people, did you really like that book that much? Was that book really that good? Did it really move you that much? Or are you saying that because you feel like you have to because it's popular and everybody else is saying that? Not that
for sure.
Not that I'm like calling anybody or anything out, but sometimes like I think that when I see some of these books, because it's like, there's no way that every single review, because I mean, there are, for as much as we love Sarah J. Maas, there are people who, I've seen several people talk about Crescent City as one of the worst series they have ever read, that they hate it, they don't like it, that a lot of people really hate Bryce as a character, that they cannot relate to her, they really just rip it apart. Point being that there are some people who feel the way that they feel and they don't let the hype and like the mass love for something sway them. But when you hear nothing negative and then you feel negative, you're like,
it's me, I'm the problem.
It's like, but you all like, did you lie? Did someone who lied? You didn't all like this that much. You know what I mean?
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
That's such an interesting way to put that too, because if you had asked me 2 days ago about When the Moon Hatched, I would have really struggled to even give, granted I hadn't finished it, but I really sit there and I'm like, do these people just fall so heavily to the last 30% or the last 40% of this book that they kind of give no regard to that it took 60% of a book to get great, if that makes sense. For me, if it takes 60% of a book to get through it, I am going to sit there and be like, well, that wasn't a great book. To me, a great book does not take 60% of the total composition of it to get through the exposition.
Mhm.
There is something not right for it. If my world building is still happening for such a large part of a book, I'm over it.
And that
I need
book's
more
not that
substance.
long either, right? Like it's not a freaking Kingdom of Ash like 900.
It's definitely not like quite
You know what
that
I
long.
mean?
Let's
So
look at,
like
I don't even know how long it is.
It's a
It's
really-
718 pages.
Oh my gosh, that's much
Ooh.
longer than I thought. Wow.
But so that's what I'm saying. The issue when I was struggle busting to get through the first half of this book, that's a lot of content. That is, you can read a book for 360 pages. That's a book.
Mhm.
Yes.
So for me, it was just a lot of slugging through content that I wasn't that into. And it was like, there's a lot going on. And it wasn't like it was phenomenally difficult, but I just think I kept losing my stamina in it, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Where there's dragons, and then there's magic system that's from deities who gift their gifts to people. There's mundanes, like it was like this like cool ideas, but it almost wasn't into it until the end. And like now I'm like, okay, well, I'd pick it up to find out what happens, but I did not love it or really even enjoy it for most of the time.
Dang. So interesting. All right, Lauren.
From my
What's your niche read?
Okay, well, everybody knows I'm a monster romance lover. Whenever I need don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fantasy romance girl, but like I have a bit of a stressful day job most of the time, and usually fantasy romance is kind of my escape, but sometimes I need something mindless. It's got like I need something ridiculous or mindless or just like cuz some fantasy books, and I love this, don't get me wrong, like I love complex world building, complex storytelling. It's great. But sometimes after I come home from work, I'm like I do not want complicated. I want simple. And monster romances are that. So, I don't know if everybody can see the
Oh my gosh.
screen.
For Soul to Keep?
A Soul to Keep by Opal Rain, I think it is. And the the first, her dedication in this book is everything. It's like, the dedication right before the book actually starts, and it's like, "Hey, monster fuckers, yeah, you. I know you saw the cover of this, and I know what you want. Like, you want a skull-faced man that eats people just to, be our romantic hero, and here you go." She was just she's so I just felt like she was really self-aware as an author that she's like, yeah, we all love to read like monster romance. He doesn't even have a human face. Don't even try to kid yourself that this is anything but just monster smut. I love the self-awareness of it. And actually, her writing is very good. She is a very good writer. And it's in the monster romance genre. A lot of times the books are not the best written a lot of the time. But I would say I actually genuinely think that Opal Rain is a good author, and I think it was a well-written book with a cool storyline. It's just hilarious that our male lead, he doesn't have a face. He doesn't have eyes. They're just floating orbs that change color depending on his emotions, which is weirdly adorable. And he's 7 feet tall and like hairy, and also his man parts are so large that he has to magically rearrange the insides of the girl. So, monster romance at its finest, but genuinely a fun read, genuinely a book that I enjoyed. I did read the second one, which I didn't enjoy as much, but I would consider reading the third.
Yeah, I feel your point of it being mindless, to me, that's sort of what my hockey romance is for the most part, because they're typically 300-400 pages. I can get through them in a day. They're very easy, speedy, quick, lovey-dovey, so surface level, but they're so good, and I just love them. I got really into Megan Quinn. She has a series, and for whatever reason, I was avoiding them, probably because they're quite popular and she is quite a well-known author, and so I was like giving space to be like, maybe it's because sometimes I get fearful that I'm not gonna like it when everybody else likes it. And it was very good. However, it didn't fulfill all the things I would want out of a hockey romance. Like there was not very much hockey-ing happy. There was none actually, which I do enjoy about it. You know, it's kind of,
Yeah.
I'm not really a sports kind of gal, but you know, if it's a hockey book, I kind of want them to play hockey.
Play hockey.
But it was good regardless. But I totally feel you on the mindlessness.
Yeah, it's just
I
there's
got really
something
into it.
about like there's no seriousness really in it, and at least with the monster romances and maybe the hockey romances are like that too. It's very apparent that the author knows that these aren't like serious novels, like that these are fun, these are entertainment value. They're just, they're meant to be fun. They're not meant to be so complicated and crazy, and that's I think what I really like.
Anywho, I am glad that we all successfully made it through Q1. It has been a very quick 3 months. We all read an incredible amount of books, and I am very excited to move on to our next couple of episodes. We're doing some deep dives, and we're getting into some really good books that we all have been very, very excited about. So make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe to stay caught up on all things Talk Fae To Me. Peace out.